Yeah, smack. Well, I already did that once. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to bring the Clear Creek Community Services District Board of Directors meeting to order. First on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you all don't mind standing and addressing the flag, we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so the first item on our agenda after the pledge is open time, and this is an opportunity for anyone present to address the Board of Directors on matters not listed on the agenda.
Scott McVeigh is asked to speak.
Certainly.
I signed up with Daryl.
And Joanna, all right, great, so we have two speakers.
I signed Beverly signed up.
And Beverly. Good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay through the mask?
Hopefully.
Good.
Why don't you take it off?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's better.
No?
No,
Yeah.
don't take it out.
You can put it there.
I have a hard time.
I understand. A question for each of you individually. I would like to know, yes or no, do you sustain agriculture in our district?
Would you ask the question
Do
again?
you sustain agriculture in our district?
What do you mean by sustain?
Support it, encourage it, do what you can to
Cultivate.
keep it going.
Absolutely.
Preserve.
Director White.
Yes. To the extent feasible, yeah, absolutely. I think that's an important part of the community.
We all know that last year was a disaster for not just agriculture, but for even the basic customers for water. My concern is with another drought year coming and severe restrictions already on notice from Reclamation, that if we don't come up with a plan to enable the customers to choose for themselves how much water they need within reason, and not dictate that they can have 40 or 50 or 60 units, period, because one size does not fit all. And we need a program that enables people to choose for themselves, be accountable to themselves. I think it would create a lot less animosity in the district. I think it would make lives a lot easier for the staff here at the office. You wouldn't have to have protest letters or variances and things like that. And I hope that whatever program you choose accomplishes that this year. Thank you.
Totally agree.
Yeah, totally agree.
Thank you. Joanna or Beverly? Go ahead, Beverly. Go ahead.
Just a couple of things, and I'll be quick. I want to remind the board that in March of 2021, the old board, of course, fully approved an audit, a full audit to be done. So here we are in December, 9 months later, we have not moved forward with this full audit. So I'm hoping that with the standing committee report, we'll have something of support with that. But again, you voted for it. Let's move forward in getting this full audit completed. One of the things I have tasked myself in doing is reviewing minutes, going back, finding where we went sideways. Because we went sideways in a big hurry and lost a lot of our reserves and contingency funds and all of that. So I started back 2011, 2012, and I think I've had 8 hours now where I've come in and reading minutes. It takes about 4 hours to read 1 year of minutes. So I can tell you that it was 2012 to 2013, things started going sideways. There is an operational reserve policy that was passed in February of 2013. On the website, there is a reserve policy, but it's not the operational reserve policy. It's completely different, and it tells you what you can spend things on, what you can't spend things on, what you can do. We wasted monies to pay for the lawyer out of those funds, Walt McNulty, or whatever his name was, with a lawsuit against the Bureau. We also took out $75,000 to pay for a new employee to hire on. And those are things in that reserve policy that says you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to do that. I would recommend that you pull that out and find it and read it, because it's really gonna say what we're supposed to be doing. It also then tells you how much money we're supposed to be putting back in these accounts on a yearly basis, and I don't know that that's being done. So I would just recommend that people, the board, read these minutes. They're really eye-opening. Thank you.
Chairman, the operational reserve policy, I didn't get the date on that.
It was first brought to the board in November of 2012, and it finally got passed in February of 2013.
Okay.
And, you know, they may have it here somewhere, it could be in your handbooks, I don't know. Yes.
Did you compile anything in writing that you submitted? So that we'd have that, what you have?
I
mean, did you
did-
summarize that or anything on a?
I did
sheet?
not. I
Okay.
did not. What do you want summarized?
Well, those sorts of items would be useful, just to compile as part of the record, just,
Okay, my findings?
yeah,
things
that would
I
be
found?
super helpful.
Absolutely, I
Because
will do
those
that.
would be handy for committee meetings,
Yeah.
I think, going forward.
I mean, it's one thing to, you know, things get amended. So that's why I've got to catch up from 13 through 16, because you may have come back and amended something too. But I can tell you what I found and what the policies were that were passed at that particular time, that you can go back and research. Okay.
If I could real quick add something that's pertinent to that. At the last meeting, I asked you guys to review policy 2008-11 that was passed. It had to deal strictly with the reserves that were supposed to be accounted, what they were for, the different types of reserves. And then it was revisited in 2016 and continued. So you may want to look into that. It's under the policies of the district right on the website.
What date? 2008?
2008-11.
Oh, 1/1.
Take this back. Okay, Joanne, excuse me.
First off, I wanted to ask why we're missing Director Davis tonight. Do we know
What?
why
Davis
Davis isn't here?
isn't here.
Director Davis resigned at about 4:58 this evening.
What?
You did. Is there a reason? Or? Maybe Bill might want to, he got the email from me.
You didn't leave last month?
Well, technically he did. I mean, he went from board meeting to board meeting. So, yeah, at the close of business today, we received a letter of resignation from Jim Davis.
Any explanation?
Just a resignation, no explanation. You can ask him, I guess.
No, that's all right. I had my doubts, but I was optimistic, and I guess I'm back where I started.
And the
Sorry.
second,
And no disrespect intended.
We can't hope. We can't keep him there.
the second thing I want to address, I'm very disappointed, there's now a state mandate that when you're inside, you're supposed to have masks on. A lot of people in this room do not. I think for my health and their health, we all should be wearing masks, and it is a mandate, so. Third thing is, I just read in the newspaper that the little community of Doris received $3.5 million to dig well, they got a grant, $3.5 million to dig wells, improve their infrastructure, and do other things in their community, and I'm wondering, did we apply for any of those grants?
Well,
I didn't.
just briefly, we'll have she was wondering if we apply for grants. That's been kind of an ongoing discussion. It was a discussion at the Finance Committee meeting in November, and likely Bill will touch on that in his review of district business.
Okay, because we've had volunteers to look at grants and write grants for us, so. That's,
Excuse me, you have?
we have had community members volunteer
Yes.
for the grant, to look at the grants, research grants, write grants, and if we're missing out on this money, that could go a long way to help this community. So I just wanted to bring that up. Those were the three things. Thank you.
Would it be fair to say that would be a good thing to have on the Finance Committee agenda then, just to rally ad hoc committee to work on filling out grants that Bill isn't already pursuing. Would that be a good idea, Joanne?
Probably, yeah.
All right, I'll
Or
put that on.
one, that's
as a
something we
comment.
need to really seriously look at, our grants. I mean, otherwise it's not gonna happen. We're never gonna have the money to do what we need to do to make this district operate like it should operate. Provide the water that the people need.
Thank you. All right.
I've just so you know, I've been in touch with Aqua on the federal infrastructure bill, and I have yet to hear back from them, but my understanding is that Aqua is, which we are a member of, Aqua is looking into what it's gonna take to get some of that money, because money is available for water districts. So I will report back on that when I find out more about it.
And we need to pursue the fact that we're a low-income community also.
That we're what?
Because we're a low-income
Disadvantage.
community, we need to pursue that facet of applying for grants.
We are what's designated a disadvantaged community.
Right.
Most of Shasta County is.
All right. So, okay, so now we're to the consent agenda. The following items are supposed to be, expected to be routine. Any interested party may request an item be removed from the consent agenda for later discussion. On the consent agenda, it's approving the paid bills and payroll for October. And so would you like to talk on the consent agenda?
I'm sorry, you guys first, and then.
Yeah, I had a statement, I don't know whether it's changes anything, but there was a bill on there from the prior auditors. And when I talked to them, they said that they would give it to me no cost. 'Cause I asked, this is what product you're gonna charge us for, and they said no. So I just wanted people to know that I come out and spend money without authorization.
Okay, and that falls on to one of the items under bills paid in October.
Right.
Okay, thanks for that, Dave. Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you. Just a question, and Bill can answer probably. Having looked at the bills paid, the two pay periods in October, it totaled $29,000 or something, but it looked like it was regular hours. Now, I know the district is, by nature, has to have overtime, but I didn't see a breakdown of how much was regular hours and how much was overtime on there. I didn't see mentions.
No, it's just dollar volume, it's not time cards.
Is there some way of including that in a report somewhere so that the board and the community understand? I mean, it's obvious that weekends on call require overtime, so we're not challenging that. We'd like a little more transparency in it.
So more detail in the
Either an activity report or whatever report that is available.
maybe just a memo that supplements the lump sum.
Yeah, whatever's appropriate.
Yeah. Would that be doable, Bill? Is that
I'll see what we can come up with.
all right, this is something simple that gives folks a sense that the accounting's right on. All right, let me just take another note here. Very good.
I'm sorry, I had one more thought on that.
I should have moved faster, huh? Holy mackerel.
The only other thing that might be good was, does that include, retirement things or other benefits, medical that the district pays out? Is that thrown into the actual payroll, or is that simply the payroll paid to the individual? Or is that
Those are
included?
check amounts, check numbers.
Those are the check amounts only. Okay, no matching, social security or
We
other.
don't
things.
pay the social security.
Oh, that's right, you guys don't.
You have, I mean,
I just looking for a better understanding of the true cost
yeah,
of payroll.
Yeah, so I might suggest that, and we're not I don't know where we are relative to the activity report and the detail in that, but it seems like instead of, is there detail? That would make that unwieldy on a monthly basis.
To break it down per employee would,
It'd be a lot of lines.
we'd have to run a special report to do it.
So,
Right. Otherwise, you're gonna see it in a lump sum
yeah.
and not be able to, I understand what they're saying, I just don't know how exactly to get it to you. I'll work on that.
Well, why
Write
don't,
it down.
yeah, why don't we do that as part of, say, something that would be attached to a finance committee meeting? Because that'd be a good place for that sort of detail. It could just be an attachment. If we're meeting them every month or every 2 months, we could have that as an attachment. That way people could stay in touch with that detail, if that's all right. That might be convenient.
Is quarterly an option?
Yeah, sure, I mean, you can always go back to a year or two, I don't know, quarterly, but if it's quarterly and you want all the detail, it might be easier to compile it, while it's fresh than that kind of going back. If it became I don't know, Bill, I'm not sitting in your chair there, so.
There's probably a way to do it, and I mean, I don't know it off the top of my head. So, we'll look into it.
Yeah, well, explore that in terms of making it as time efficient as possible. We know the data's there, but it's just the reporting. Thanks for that. I know your staff is stretched right now, and we appreciate all that you guys are doing right now, as we try to dig out of the financial difficulties we've had. All right, so now transferring to new business, old business, item 5.
Are we going to
Consent agenda.
the consent agenda?
Oh, we should vote on that. Good catch. I'm ordering ahead. I've already eaten dinner too, so that's not an excuse. My belly's full, so I'm not racing home to eat.
Well, you want to be here for a while, Well, I would move approval.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Consent agenda.
Director Fuss moved and Director Frennery second. Any further discussion? No. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And now to the new business. WinAct news from Downey Brand. Before I let Bill expand on that, if he's of the mind, I would summarize it as saying that the initial thrust of the legal action against the named defendants in the proceedings were set aside by the judge, but there's been subsequent filings where the prosecution has identified five water agencies that they want to focus in on and try to upset their ability to get their contracts renewed. And so while we're not named in that, which is fine with us, I think, that legal action's continuing. If I recall how I read the briefs, it sounded like they were trying to demand a NEPA be done, an EIS be done for that project, as a project. The government says that it's not a project, it was an act of legislation and that it's not required, so we'll see where that lands. But do you have anything further on that, Bill?
Nope, you did great.
Other directors?
No, you did fine.
All right.
That's where we are.
The letter
And it's an ongoing situation.
explains it really well.
Yeah.
She said, be patient. Okay?
Yeah. And it's nice to see, well, hopefully those agencies prevail. And if they don't, they'll have to do NEPA, which will slow things down, but ultimately, I think the WIN Act being an actual legislation gives us a pretty firm footing. We just need to rain enough so that they can allocate us that amount of water. Okay, so WIN Act loan options and financing. Turn this over to Bill, give us an update there.
I've been in contact with Cornerstone Community Bank, Wells Fargo, and Tri-County Bank. And Tri-County's got back to me today and said they really couldn't do anything for us. Wells Fargo and Cornerstone Bank, after review of our financial statements, so they couldn't help us either. I've included in the packet two brief summaries from some financial firms, Ridgeline Municipal Advisors and Backstrom, McCarley, and Berry Company. And I'm supposed to have meetings with them later this week or next week, and just to discuss things further. And we're waiting to hear back from the Bureau of Reclamation to see if what they can do to help us with our WIN Act obligation, which is promising. After a quick phone call, that sounded sort of promising.
Good.
So hopefully we can report more news on that at the January meeting.
At the January meeting.
So
This
the
will be-
line of credit's gone? They took back the line of credit?
Oh, no, we're still moving forward with that.
I didn't catch what you said.
The line of credit, was it taken back? The answer was no.
Oh, okay.
No, the WIN Act loan with Tri-Counties and the line of credit were two different things.
Two different things.
So we're trying to obtain two loans from Tri-Counties. And one was the line of credit, which we have, which is, the documents are being held up right now because of their issue, not ours. I checked in with them already this week. And then the WIN Act obligation was something we pursued with Tri-Counties, and that didn't go anywhere.
Question on that.
Do you want it to for the podium? Or you can, I guess you can do it for now.
Okay. Having read through the packet stuff, one of the papers said that one of the reasons probably was the, arrears we have, to PERS, the 1.8 million approximate. So that's something that board should be aware of, and it's, am I correct that we're paying 7% interest on that?
I think it's less than that, but it's like 6 point something.
Okay, so that's a chunk of change on 1.8 million. Okay. Something that you guys should consider addressing somehow. Is it
We have
possible
to, yeah, that'll be part of the mix.
Is it possible, I noticed in one of the recommendations where they mentioned that the 623,000 was too small a loan for a lot of institutions to mess with. They would rather do $1 million plus. Is that something that we could even look at and split that to the WIN Act and put the other into projects or things that we might need? Or building the reserve accounts? I don't know. I'm throwing out ideas.
I agree with that, I think that's a good idea.
I don't know if we can.
Apparently, one of the groups that we looked at, suggested, lumping in the WIN Act, money and the employee, in arrears money.
Well, if we
And he
can
thought
get
that could work, so.
3% instead of 7 or 6.6 or whatever it is.
Yeah, so if you can lump things together, why not?
Okay, yeah.
But let him explore it.
That's all I have on the matter.
Thanks, Bill. I'm just taking a few notes. I haven't left the building mentally yet.
Can we just go back before you go on?
Sure.
I'm sorry, did we say that we're going to be able to make our January payment to the WIN Act?
So we talked with the Bureau, and before we make any payments, we're going to meet with them. So the Bureau is well aware of our situation, but nothing was in a phone call. Nothing was ironed out. There was no decisions made. We explained to them what's going on, and we are waiting for emails back and forth
I personally would say, give them $25,000 a month, or $20,000 a month to make that $215,000 payment. They're not gonna squawk at us for making payments, even though we can't just do a big, lump sum. So anyways, okay, thank you.
Maybe Bill can work out a better deal. Let him meet with them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's an outstanding issue that is of concern because it's tied to our contract. I think that the Bureau has signaled that they're interested in having us not default on our contract. They want help. But those details haven't been ironed out certainly, and so it'll be TBD, to be determined, but, those actually work on it. And hopefully we can have some good news in January relative to that. Let's see here. The Enterprise Anderson Groundwater Sustainability Agency update. This is,
I can give you an update. Before I do, let me just say that, back in 2014, the state passed what we call SIGMA, Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which required every area that had a groundwater basin to do a groundwater sustainability plan. If the people in the area didn't get together and do it themselves, then the Department of Water Resources would do it for us. Back in 2014, Johanna and I met with the City of Reading, City of Anderson, ACID, Bella Vista Water District, and the county to explore ways so that the state would step in and begin to manage our groundwater. All of those entities that I talked to you about, except in addition to one other, which is the Cottonwood Water District, draws water from the groundwater basin. It took quite a while to agree to something, and it was an agreement that is shaky, but we did agree, and in order so that the state would not step in and take over, we decided to form an agency and that we would do the groundwater sustainability plan. The state agreed to pay for it, and they have. They've not only paid for the study of the groundwater that we have here, but they also paid for the plan itself, and they also have paid for a yet-to-be drilled monitoring well in the Anderson groundwater basin. There's two basins here, Enterprise and the Anderson basins. And we, if you recall, Johanna, we protested and said, we don't think we're a medium basin. You have low, medium, and high basins. High basins are the ones down in the San Joaquin Valley where the ground is sinking, 20 feet in 20 years or whatever, not quite. But we have a basin here that is pretty well sustainable. We don't draw very much out of it, but the Department of Water Resources says, yes, you must have a plan. So at that time, it was CH2M Hill that was hired to do the plan. It has since been sold, CH2M Hill has been sold to what they call Jacobs. They call themselves CH2M Jacobs now. They have finished the plan, finally finished the plan. It came out good because we have lots of water under us, and it's not an onerous plan where we have to do anything drastic in order to maintain it, because we don't take enough out of it to really do any damage to it, frankly. And so the plan has been done. I met with the Jacobs people yesterday, and I also went to the meeting today where the management committee, or Jacobs, I should say, Jacobs has taken all the comments that they were open to take from everybody and, like they're supposed to do, and then, comment on the comments in some form or another in changing the plan or modifying the plan or not doing anything. And all that's been done. And now the plan is there. The EAGSA, the agency, will meet on January 10th and will submit the plan according to the timetable that the Department of Water Resources set out. So far, all this has been paid for. But going forward, the onus to pay for the ongoing is gonna fall on the 6 agencies that are in the EAGSA, is the ones I mentioned to you. To even make that even more immediate, not only do we have to submit the plan by the end of January, which we will do, but we also have to update it by April. And each April it has to be updated for 5 years, and then at the end of 5 years, then it has to be gone over and revamped and everything. So what it amounts to is that we're still a part of that, and there was a cost estimate done as to how much it was gonna cost per agency to be able to administer this plan. And the cost estimate came to, and I'm gonna just throw out a figure here that was an in-between figure, somewhere around $25,000. Well, yes, $25,000. No, that's not, you're looking at the high side. No, you're looking at the high side,
Is that per year?
per year.
Okay.
Yeah, approximately $25,000 per year. That's if Jacobs or some other entity did everything. A lot can be done, within each agency to go toward that. In other words, our people here at the water district can give information on our wells to the people who are putting together, gathering all the data to then give it to the Department of Water Resources, in April. We need to, and by the way, Bill, you need to get together with the management committee, because and we talked about this at the board meeting today, we need to find out how much it's gonna cost from the management committee, how much it's gonna cost to be able to meet that deadline of April to update the plan we just approved, and then see where we go from there. Also, I think this board needs to talk about, and the people in the community need to discuss, what are our options regarding this groundwater sustainability agency. I will tell you this, if you're not in a GSP, the Department of Water Resources will gladly take it over. Gladly. And they will charge us for it. They charge $300 a year for each well, and $40 for every acre foot you take out of that well. So if we, just give an example, if we take 2,000 acre feet out of the wells in a whole year, and one well can do that, approximately, that's $80,000 we'd have to pay to the Department of Water Resources. Ain't gonna happen here. So we've got to find some way, some middle ground, to determine how we split the cost. Now, right now, the cost by MOU, we have an MOU with the 6 entities. And in order to get the MOU, because it was tough to get, if you remember, we fought hard to try to stay together because the Department of Water Resources was coming in, they were gonna do it themselves. We agreed finally with this MOU. We could have gone with the JPA, but that's hard to get out of, so we decided all to go with an MOU because it's easier to get out of. Of course, if you get out of it, you still have to have a GSP, Groundwater Sustainability Plan. So this is something that we all need to talk about in terms of how we are going to address this issue going forward. Because every year, we're going to have to be able to do an update, or not, I guess I don't call it quite an update, but it is an update to the plan, and then the big update comes up after 5 years. And that's gonna cost some money. But,
So it's annual, the districts submit reports annually on water usage, I
Yeah.
presume.
yes,
Which should be a pretty easy lift.
Yep.
And then at the end of 5 years, some geohydrologist does an update to the groundwater modeling that they've done, and recrunches the numbers to see where we sit, based on the monitoring wells and
Yeah.
and the water that we pump, or all the agencies. And that's gonna cost, well, if it's,
It's $119,000 a year, based on their estimate.
for all.
For all six.
all 6,
So about 20,000.
20,000 a year.
Right.
But
So
it's-
$500,000 to crunch the numbers again, seems
Yeah.
outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
Seems outrageous since they've already done it once. I just can't believe that putting that tire back on the truck costs 500 grand. I hate to think what they charged originally, must be millions.
What's that, for the GSP?
GSP.
Oh, yeah, it's around 800 and something $1,000.
I underestimated it, or overestimated it.
Yeah, not by much, not by much, but still a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah. So,
And I think we still have, that may not include the monitoring well that's to be built. So
so,
may work up to about $1 million.
yeah, so that reporting, schedule, is that must be in some of the paperwork?
Yes,
You know, like-
it's in the act itself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's reiterated in the groundwater sustainability plan?
In the plan as well, yeah.
All right. And with respect to, being part of the MOU, right now, our obligation is to pay our proportional, or 1/6 of the bill.
That's the way it's set up now in the
Yeah.
MOU.
And the reason that we wanted to be on equal footing with the other districts and demand.
We didn't want to be on equal footing with the other districts. It was the only way we could get to an MOU. That was part of the negotiation.
Yeah, so
Back then,
yeah,
and frankly, nobody wanted to do any of that. But the state law said you had to. And they kept dangling that other thing in front of us saying, if you don't do it, we're gonna do it and charge you for it.
yeah.
Well,
So
We decided to do it ourselves, especially since they paid for it.
yeah.
But going forward now, we are gonna have to pay.
Yeah. Okay, my understanding was that we wanted to pay our proportional share because it gave us an equal vote with the other agencies.
Yes, we still want that.
Do we still want that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because, so in my thinking around requiring, you want an equal vote if there was adverse conditions in the basin. But if there's not adverse conditions in the basin, there probably wouldn't be adverse resolutions by this Enterprise Anderson Groundwater Sustainability Agency. They won't be passing things that are adverse to Clear Creek Community Services District. So I'm not sure why we want to be a big fish in a big pond, or whether it would be smarter to say, just convene with the management group and say, at this time, we're not taking, or suggest that maybe the funding of the update should be proportional to the water you pump. Because Reading pumps the heck out of the groundwater.
But most of them.
And but proportionally to us, they got us probably, what do you think, 5 to 1? Yeah,
More
so
than that.
that's where I
You
think,
got Bella Vista too, who's got a lot of wells.
I think that, that would be an option I think we should approach.
And that's what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting we study, and I guess, it would be something that we need to bring to that management committee. By the way, the management committee is made up of the 6 agencies.
Okay.
And the management committee, makes recommendations to the 6 agencies who sit as the GSA. And so the GSA would make decisions on, what would happen going forward. Now, the MOU, the way it's worded, we can get out of the MOU. Any one of those agencies can get out of the MOU. We made it that way so that it wouldn't be onerous, because we had a hard time putting it together to begin with.
I would suggest getting out of the MOU.
Well, this is the question now. If you get out of the MOU, this agency still has wells. We still need a GSP. Do we have our own? You know how much it cost to do that with the other one? It was $800 and something thousand.
No, my suggestion relative to addressing the management committee around proportionally distributing the cost to the various agencies would include staying in the MOU and still having access and coverage under the GSP.
Yeah.
And being part of the agency, but a member that is, junior, if you will, because we draw less water. If we drew more water, then we would pay more. If that means we need to create, instead of 1 vote per agency, maybe you say, Reading has 10 votes, Anderson has 5, 3, 2, and if we start pumping more water, then we end up being a 3 or a 4, and we have more votes. But to think that we're gonna wag the tail.
That is an option. The way it's set up right now, we can't afford the
45,000 a year.
Yeah, we can't afford to split equally 6 ways, 16 point something percent. We can't afford that. We don't have the customer base, we don't have the money, obviously, because it has to come from the customers, and we don't have that. So something has to be done with regard to the management committee, or the MOU, to be able to structure it differently so that we get a fairer share of it. The idea that you brought up is not a bad idea. In other words, how much water you pump or how many wells you got, that's how much input you have into the GSA. That still keeps us in the GSP, the plan. But we need to explore that with the management committee and then explore that with the full board.
And there's another wrinkle to that, because I wouldn't want to waive our ability to have a full vote or equal share. And they may say, well, gosh, you haven't paid your share and you have to make it in arrears, whatever. We could have it, essentially, it could get trued up every 5 years. So if we went 5 years at a lesser rate, and then in 5 years, for whatever reason, the North Fork Estates goes in, and we have 3 wells down there, and another well in Cottonwood, and we're pumping a lot, then in 5 years' time, we say, you know what, we'd like a full share, and maybe we write this into the MOU. You have the option to pay your full and have your proportional share, but you have to pay your proportional amount for reporting, and you can do that on a 5-year true-up, because that's what would keep things equitable relative to folks doing those outlays.
That's all subject to negotiations with the other 5.
And we should be able to see over the horizon 5 years relative to groundwater and know that we shouldn't see any adverse, maybe we can, but I would think that, look, could see, like I feel like I could say with a fair amount of certainty that in the next 5 years, this GSA is not going to have adverse findings or resolutions that would harm Clear Creek Community Services District.
No,
I don't know what it's gonna be like from 5 years from now, maybe, and then 15 years from now. So at some point, the district, and hopefully the district's finances are such that we can play in that arena better. But in that time, then we could gather together the funds and then reinstate our full, voting authority in the agency, as an idea.
Well, we need to meet, the management committee needs to meet and talk about these things. And Bill is he's on the management committee.
This is the GSA management meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's on that committee, and I think that information should be brought to the management committee, because I think you will find that, the committee member from ACID has the same feeling as I do, that, we need to renegotiate that in some way to make it bearable based upon our ability to pay. And, but in reading everything, and I've read everything, and I've read that Sigma, and it looks to me like, if we drop out of the MOU and drop out of it, the Department of Water Resources may come right to our doorstep and say, you need to either come up with a plan yourself, or you need to let us do it for you. In which case, if they do it for us, I'll just tell you what the cost is gonna be. It's gonna be horrendous, and it's not gonna be sustainable. We can't do it. And we can't really do our own GSP. We can say, well, Mr. Department of Water Resources, we'll just go under the GSP for the EA GSA. And they may say, nah, I don't think so. Maybe you need to do your own. I'm not willing to put this district in that situation where you drop out only to find out later that you got a bigger cost than you had anticipated before. Let's find these things out and renegotiate. We've got, not only do we have, and I'm assuming this board will go along with that, the idea of renegotiating an MOU that more favors the use of our water and groundwater in our district. But you also have ACID, who's on our side as well. You know, they even have fewer customers than we do. They're gonna have to come up with $20,000, $25,000 a year. It's probably gonna be less than that, but still, it's a lot of money. And it's a lot of money that we don't have. As a matter of fact, we don't have a budget for it, so we don't have a budget for it. And it's coming up in April.
Yeah.
So we need to get on it right away. The management committee needs to meet. That's what we talked about today at the EAGSA, that the management committee has to get together soon and work on that.
So there was open discussion about modifying the MOU at the meeting this afternoon.
How about
Is that
people-
correct?
No, there was not.
Oh.
No, not modifying the MOU. Everything that we talked about today was steered toward the GSP, the plan.
Okay.
Because the people that were putting on the meeting today were CH2M Jacobs, who put the plan together.
Okay.
The
I misunderstood what you
management
said.
committee and the EAGSA is separate from that. The politics of that is separate.
Okay, I misunderstood. I, for some reason, read something else in what you said. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
Public comment on this before we bring it back to the board and move on to the
I have
next?
a question.
First, Ms. Connery, and then
Yeah.
Scott McVeigh.
What about people that have a private well?
This has nothing to do with private wells.
Private wells,
It has to do with public
public wells.
wells. Right.
So how do they take into account what the private people are taking into account?
Private people
How
in
does
this
it
county
figure
are
it?
taking out minuscule amount of water that
Right.
don't affect our watershed, our groundwater basin at
Makes
all.
We
Just to give you an example, the plan, after a lot of 1,000 pages, or whatever, determines that the groundwater that is brought into the district and the groundwater is taken out, before we even get a chance to affect the groundwater, this county would have to take out, or this, in the Anderson Basin, would have to take out something like 89,000 acre feet of water a year. We take out about 19,500 a year.
Okay.
That's it.
Total,
Total.
all of this.
Yeah. So you can double the population of this area tomorrow, and you still wouldn't affect the water, the basin. And that is why they put together this good plan. This plan is good for us. It sets us for the future so that we can pump all this water out of here because you can't count on the Bureau of Reclamation anymore, obviously. But we can pump as much water as we need to service our district here and not affect the plan to the point where they have to do mitigation methods like conservation. They even talked about, I mentioned that today, talked about tiered pricing. I don't think you can do that, but they're looking into that. And there's a lot of different things. They can even, the GSA has the authority to tell you how much water you can pump. But they're never gonna get there because there's so much water under us, we don't have to worry about that.
I think that's entirely correct analysis of that. Thank you for that. So we have a public comment at the
Yes.
podium, and then we're gonna follow up with Scott, in back.
Every time we talk about this organization that you joined yourself into, or we joined ourselves into years ago, we had no part of it. But anyway, you did, and whoever else from the board went over there. Anyway, it seems like it's gonna cost us more money every time you talk about it. It's gonna cost us more and more to keep our water because of one reason or another. We're broke, let's be realistic. You haven't got the money to go buy that water or a seat on the board like that every year.
It's gonna cost you some money
It's
anyway.
gonna cost you away you go, that's what you keep saying.
The state passed a law, and
Because we have
unfortunately, we have to comply with it.
Well, if it wasn't in a pinch like we are right now, or haven't been for a while because of you, we'd have the money to pay those people.
Say that again?
I said, because of you, with your long-term sitting up here taking money and wasting it, or people you have up working with you wasting it, we might have a little more money to buy water or do a business with people. Right now, you got a man over there working his butt off to try to get a little bit of money, and they won't even let us have it. Our credit is no good, so where do you go from there? If you was to go downtown and buy a house and say, walk into the bank and say, I don't have nothing, I don't have no collateral, I don't have nothing, what would they tell you?
All right, thanks for that. Scott?
Just a little background, I've done some extensive reading because of my interest in it. And hydrologists have done hydrological studies since the 60s on forward. And in the 2000s, they did a 50-year study with population growth expectations, normal droughts and whatnot. And there was no effect to the groundwater levels whatsoever. And they included the last 20 years of the 50-year study being 20 years of drought. And the conclusion was no appreciable change in the level of groundwater, okay? So to your point, Erwin, yes, we should be looking to mitigate our involvement in that for that reason. But in your package, you got the information that Erwin's been talking about, along with 2 charts with the estimated costs. Chart 1 broke down various administrative costs and whatnot by category with the dollar figures annually. And then the second one was the revised annual plans that come out to $119,000. When you total all that together, and then you divide it by 6, our annual cost would be approximately $52,350, which would be $1.60 a month per customer. And that requires a WINAC, which the public will not like.
That's right. And that's
Okay,
why
so
we need to
understand the
negotiate.
math.
Require a WIN Act,
Because you have to raise the rates to cover that $1.60 a month per customer.
a Prop 218.
Prop 218, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
I've got 2 other items in my head.
That's all right.
Yes, Prop 218 would be required to raise that $1.60 per customer. And that's based on the 2,710. We only have 2,356 right now. So
You're right.
as long as the board is aware of that information, to help you make your decisions.
That's why we need to
Yeah. Did you-
renegotiate that MOU.
Did you happen to jot that down into a summary sheet?
It's all in your package.
Okay, all right, sorry.
Yeah, there's
I
two
thought
charts
maybe
in
you
your
did some,
package as part of the GSA.
sorry, I thought you did some extra
No, all
math.
I did was do the math.
Okay, that's what I mean.
Okay, so that I would know what the actual cost of the district was. And that's the estimated, not the low or the high. The
Yeah.
estimated, how good is the estimate? Will the estimate remain the same, or will there be increases annually because of cost increases? Which we are, probably 3 or 5%, look at inflation right now.
Yep, and the reason I raised that, Scott, is I didn't jot that down in my notes. And, if you have the hankering for it, when you do that math, if you just put it on a Word document and ship it in, it becomes part of the board packet. I mean, it's right there for us, it's easy to refer to. Boy, if you do that,
The
that'd be
information
swell.
was there, it was just a matter of.
Yeah,
doing the
yeah,
math,
yeah.
You know,
I just-
multiply everything, divided by 6, and there was your actual annual cost.
Yeah, all right.
In year 1, what would it be in 3, 5, 10,
Yeah.
who knows?
I'll have to do the math and put the notes in my director's packet. And I
Let
didn't
me-
get
Can
that.
I just add one other thing to this?
$1.60 per.
Some of this, some of the jobs that are in that estimate can be done internally. And so that'll play a part in it too. But I want to tell you that when we first got wind of the 2014 Groundwater Sustainability Management Act, scared us to death because we had those wells. And the reason why we got together with all the other entities is to prevent the Department of Water Resources from coming in here and doing what they want to do with this. We wanted the local control. Believe me, it was not easy to get those 6 entities together. Politically, it was almost impossible. And it was only done after the state, Department of Water Resources, said that they would pay for the plan. And it made it easier to do that. As a matter of fact, we had to get a grant to hire a facilitator, remember that? Because it got so much of an argument around the table about, I remember Walton McNeil being there one day, we had to tell him to shut up. It was a crazy thing, but it was a mess. It was a political mess. We got an MOU. We had to do it because we didn't want the state to come in. Still don't want the state to come in. We want to be able to control it. Now that the plan is done, it's paid for, we need to now go back. And it's not gonna be a political easy thing to do, but we need to go back with all 6 agencies and work out a better, equitable plan based upon what we say.
Okay. Another comment?
Yeah, I have a comment that I'd like you to walk back a little bit, maybe have Dave give us a little, something about how much money have we taken in with the new rates of the $55 per, unit there and how much bills are we paying? And what have we got left? We have to know what's going on. We don't wanna spend more money and we don't have any ideas of what.
I don't wanna spend.
Okay.
How many?
Let me try to wrap up this item so we can move on to the next ones. And to your point, I think under operations and administrations, under the standing committee reports, Dave might be able to identify some of that. Let's just wait on that one. Just to wrap up the kind of action items on this particular issue, thanks for the extensive summary on that, Director Fuss. Bill's going to attend, hopefully, the next EAGSA Management Committee meeting. I'm available, Bill, if you want to bounce ideas off or draft kind of a strategy for that MOU that reflects the discussion we had here about modifying our dues, if you will, for maintaining our standing with that agency, because I think, at least in my opinion, we should maintain it. We just need to manage the finances around that. So with that, I'll just wrap up this item, unless there's really something that's not redundant to what we already talked about.
Location and time of the meeting. I know it's January 10th, but where and
Yeah.
what time?
Oh, Anderson, City Council Chambers, and 2 PM,
Dates?
January 10th.
January 10th.
All right. So, can we post that on the website by any, is that a hard thing to do?
EAGSA information's on the website. There's a link that takes you, I think, to the City of Reading's website.
And it is, the reason for the meeting is to actually approve the GSP so that it can be sent to the Department of Water Resources.
So our idea about modifying the MOU and that kind of thing, we need to maybe daylight that as a new agenda item for, do they meet monthly?
The GSA?
Yeah.
Well, they have
GSA.
been, and, but today we talked about ongoing meetings and they really don't have any.
So.
That's a part of the management committee.
Yes, which is January 10th. Yeah. So, maybe we need to petition the management committee to add that to the agenda. Otherwise, it will slip to date and time uncertain.
Yeah. I was gonna suggest that perhaps, and I know it's not on the agenda as an action item, but, and this came up after I thought about this a while, but perhaps a letter from the board that would outline our position regarding the equitable use of the water and the fact that, what is outlined in the MOU now is not an equitable situation. And then the management committee can work on it.
Yeah, and that would be a background information for the agenda item, should we petition for that to be on the agenda.
Right.
They could have something to sink their teeth into. All right, I like that idea.
Can we just, by consensus, ask Bill to draft a letter?
Yeah.
Bill. Yeah, you know, I could take a crack at drafting something to send to Bill, and then I think
So
that,
can I, you know, if you want,
Yeah.
we can do both together.
yeah, and I think it's just, we can circulate that amongst us as just to edit it.
Normally, we would be able to do it at a different meeting, but, you know, it's coming up pretty quick.
Could you include cottonwood in that?
Yeah.
Huh?
Can we
Could
approve
you
that?
include the cottonwood?
Cottonwood, that's an interesting concept.
Checks in the mail.
Well, at least let them know what you guys are doing, maybe they'll do the same.
We don't know about cottonwood,
Right.
you know, Department of Water Resources, Water Resources, they come to Cottonwood and say, okay, where's your GSP? Well, we
Yeah,
don't have
I
one.
would think that Bill could maybe put together a letter, but I don't think we can do a letter from the board unless we have another board.
Yeah, Bill could do that.
When did they decide on the January 10th management committee? Is that today?
No, this is not that's the GSA meeting.
So that's the board meeting.
Yeah,
January
board
10th is the
meeting.
next
There
board.
is no,
Management.
management committee set up. There needs to be one.
Okay.
And you can talk to, who's the guy from the city of Reading?
Josh Watkins.
Josh, yeah, you talk to him and say, hey, you know, at the board meeting on the 15th,
And this is Bayer too. so-
we talked about this, and we want the management committee meeting, to meet and to come up with, one of the things we said was to come up with what it's gonna actually cost us to be able to meet the April deadline for updating it. And at the same time, what you can do is, bring up the idea of the equitable nature of the MOU. I'd like to go, I'm gonna be at that meeting, whenever it is.
You're on the board, aren't you?
I can do it as long as 3 board members can be there. There's 6 of us.
Doug, do you want to talk on this item?
You know, what's obvious is I looked at the 2014 back report, what it says in here is that we need a groundwater sustainability plan by January 31, 2022. And once these things get started, they get out of control. And that's what I'm hearing. One of my questions is that LAFCO have professional negotiators, which is what we need to combat, you know, state mandates. It's not like we're not cooperating. And what I'm hearing that we do have is that there's an amount of water that we use from our wells. And I would like to, let's say, go back to what Mr. McDade brought up with regards to supporting agriculture. We support agriculture. And we support agriculture in this community by having the wells. We've never been forced into using the wells as much as we have this year. And that's been successful in large part because of Bill's skill to go down. He had to wait because the previous manager was not gonna go down, do any maintenance, get us set up. Well, it worked out. And for me to listen to Bill clearly explain that all that he needs is a couple little bells and whistles. And he can manage that down there. So we've got water for agriculture. What's scary to me is when I see the state mandates that talk about 50 gallons per day in this district. That's out of control. So how we control that is that now we've got a new management team. We've got Bill, who's particularly sharp. This is a truly community service driven district where the community is involved. We all want to participate. We're able to move forward. LAFCO ought to be able to help us negotiate some things. There was some paper that I saw early plus, which was a review that I read, and you had talked about some things of which I know nothing. So if you could write, let's say, a one-page document that talks about this meeting on January 12th, on the 10th, in Anderson, the EA, GSA, that would help so that we can all just look at something and start getting our hands around another new topic. But
I could put something.
this needs to get reined in.
Yeah,
This is unbelievable to me, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
just to respond to that, in very frank terms, there is no reining this in. This has been legislated, and it's been in place for over, what, oh, gosh, we're close to 10 years, practically, you know? We're closer to 10 years into it than reining it in, right? So, but in my estimation of where we are,
You hammer them out with details and you say, no, you can't do this, and we need a time frame, and you kick it down the road.
I think,
You know, and get some legislative control.
if we can, yeah, all of that, that's all what, I'm saying, that horse is,
Well, you gotta,
long gone.
you gotta argue with it.
But what I'm saying is, at least at this point in the process, I think we're in good shape, because we've got a really good groundwater basin that we're sitting on. If we weren't on that, then we'd be in a lot dicier condition, but we are blessed with that condition currently. What I think we need to do to protect ourselves is to solicit support from the other 5 members of the EA-GSA and appeal to them that we don't use that much groundwater and we can't afford $25,000 a year, and what can they do to help us? Because we can't afford it, and just in very frank terms, and I don't know that they necessarily will say, oh, well, you've gotta pay your full $25,000. You know, at that point, then we're in a lot more of a pickle, but I don't think we're gonna end up in that position. I think that because Anderson, confer, maybe not, but Anderson is in the same situation. They recognize that they're pumping 10 times more water than us, and they have the means. I just don't,
Proportional.
yeah, I think that if we can get that down to a few thousand a year, we need this agency, and we need to participate. We need the modeling that supports it, because we can say the groundwater's in great shape, and we can cite 20-year-old studies, but nobody cares about those. They want to see the monitoring well that's been dug and what it's doing, and the new crunching of the numbers. So it's just to play ball. We gotta be there. If we want to pump it, if we want to do another well, we're gonna need this to support documentation. I mean, we're just, it's the game that we have to play, and we're on the field whether we like it or not. I mean, we're in inning 4.
Well, under the GSP that will be submitted on the 10th, we could drill another well. We could drill 2 more wells. We could drill 3 more wells. We're not gonna affect the groundwater.
So when you talk about drilling more wells, Bill, you said something about a $19,000
Not happening.
bill payment we had to do to the state?
Yep.
And it was for the wells. So is it a permit for yearly? So are we gonna have to pay more money? We build more wells, we're still gonna have to pay an annual fee?
It's groundwater rights to the state. Yep. Is what that was.
And it goes up a little every year.
So if we have a new set of wells someplace else, you're gonna have to pay another?
I would imagine so.
Another what?
So if you have another set of wells somewhere, we're gonna have to pay another $19,000 for that grouping of wells?
No. No, right now, the MOU says, whatever the costs are, we split it 6 ways.
No.
Separate issue, separate, she's talking about the DWR's fees for establishing a well and pumping groundwater.
Yeah.
They have annual fees that really raises the issue that we spent $19,000 last year on,
This year, this month.
this month.
Yeah.
It's
It's
for
a
the
month?
year, it's an
It's for
annual.
the year.
Oh, it's for the year, okay.
But
It's going to about 7%
we're
here.
gonna pay it this month. Agreed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ready for another Prop 218? Holy Toledo. No, we're not, all right.
It just keeps
No, we're
going
not.
like a firework.
It's just a $20,000
Please
a
do
year.
not.
It's another $20,000 a year bill, yeah. All right,
Well,
let's bring this to a conclusion. I think there's been some great ideas, some good information shared. And thanks for all your hard work on that, Director Fust. And we look forward to hearing, seeing maybe a draft from you, Bill, on the, how we can approach the fee schedule.
Right.
All right, so the next item on the agenda, oh, my numbering's all screwed up.
Around.
Is the drought penalty modification billing period, January 15th to January 18th. Bill, could you frame this item for us?
Yeah, it's the same request as last month. We would like to request to set the penalties to 0 for the December to January billing. We used 47 acre feet of surface water in November, and we've used to date, for November, or for December, we used 30 acre feet. So we're still conserving, but we still need to use the water.
Have we used up all
No,
the city right water? We have not. Okay.
Another 700.
So your suggestion is that, again, we waive penalties
correct,
for this next billing period?
correct.
Okay.
We could set the penalties to something, and we could slow usage down, collect some penalty money, maybe people will protest them, and then we'll reduce them, and then a ton of staff time, morale will go down, and then.
Not
and
jazz.
then- Oh, I'm not done yet, I'm not done yet, and then on the backside of that, we'll pay the $70, we'll lose the $70 per acre foot of transfer fees that we prepaid.
Yeah.
All of this, so, yeah, you might
Yeah.
get money from penalties, but you're gonna lose money over here, so.
Yeah, I think that, we've addressed this the last couple months, and I
It's
think
the same,
the
the same
approach
request
is-
as before.
I think the approach, in my opinion, is appropriate. Any other discussion?
I agree. I think we
agree.
should.
Okay,
I'll make the
Okay.
motion.
all right. A motion to waive
Maybe somebody
January's,
Like to talk. Anybody
Oh,
else say
any-
anything?
can I get an aye?
No, I think they agree with that.
They agree.
Okay. Would you want to make the motion to?
Yes.
And I second.
All right. Second and moved. All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Good. Glad that, and I presume this is going to be on the agenda for January as well. Very good.
Every month.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
The credit card. Processing.
Okay, credit card processing discussion. Bill, this is you.
Actually, this should have been Kristen and myself, but since she's absent, all I'm gonna say is we're researching different, credit card processing options to make things easier for Kristen in the office and Janae, and make things more efficient, and potentially save the customers some money since, right now a lot of customers are paying, actually, all the customers are paying a percentage when they call in to make their credit card payment of 3%. And one of the options we found was paying through the billing system, which was super easy. And it reconciles itself and sends us a daily, batch. And Kristen really liked it, but it charges $3.95 per transaction instead of a 3% fee. So that's one of the options we're looking at, and, we're looking at some other things, but Kristen's not here to talk about it, so we'll bring it back in the next meeting.
So are you saying that if we went with that one, they'd get charged $3.95 twice?
No, it would just be a flat rate of $3.95
per month?
per transaction.
So it would save the customer 3%, because currently if they use a credit card, they're getting charged $3.95 plus 3%.
Only, $3.95 is only if you pay through the website or the ACH. No. Only if you pay through the website is it $3.95. It would only be a $3.95.
So if they paid it with a credit card on the website, they would only pay $3.95. They would not pay $3.95 for the website use and $3.95 for the credit card use.
Correct.
So
This
if they-
is just customers that are paying, are paying at the counter with a credit card or over the phone with a credit card.
And there's a savings
Yes.
then?
Wanna make
Okay,
sure we
so-
get clear.
Yeah, thank you.
So what it does is it changes the per transaction cost from $3.50 to $3.95, but the customers save 3% on the,
No.
It would be changing it from 3% to $3.95.
And that was just one of the options we've researched.
okay. So what did $3.50 have to do with any of that?
Nothing, it's $3.95.
It's $3.95.
It's
Oh,
always $3.95.
Flat fee.
oh, okay. So it would be $3.95 instead of 3%?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. And we'll talk about this again in January.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if we're done with this, I'd like to throw something out. As we see tonight, we don't have a fifth member of the board. And that situation didn't come up until today. So it does qualify for an urgency item if we want to put it on the agenda to start the process of going out for applications for a new director.
I think it qualifies as an urgency item.
Well, then I would make a motion that we add an urgency item to the agenda that would be a discussion and an action item to start the process to look for a new director for the board of directors.
I'll second
Karen, I'm not getting a second in edgewise.
that.
That's good. All right. Well, let's have a vote then.
Okay.
David?
Aye.
Aye.
Joanna moved, she's aye as well. Very good.
Then I would, then to carry it through, I would move that we direct Bill to put on the website and to send out a notice that we are looking for a new director for the board of directors for Clear Creek Community Services.
I second that.
You can't,
Vote?
And we'll appoint him at the January meeting.
Oh, yeah, oh, that was, yes, so the
What date? We gotta have a date.
cutoff date would be Thursday, whatever. What's that?
Yeah. Yep.
The Thursday before, at 5 o'clock.
And
Okay,
please make sure both forms have 5 o'clock on them.
Yes, please.
that was my motion, and I can second
Yes.
it, and it passes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, appreciate it.
Thank you for raising that, Director Cost. That's an item we need to get resolved. And hopefully the advertisement brings in a cadre of interested people.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice?
Even those that may be reluctant will come forward. All right, so now on to operations and administration. Russell, did you say you wanted to become a board?
Yes, I just wanted to bring up the fact that, if we had a business, we would be watching how much money we're taking in with the new rates. What do we get this month? And we would say, okay, what bills can we pay this month?
Okay,
Because at some point, the board has got to take the bull by the horn and say, look, we gotta figure out how much water these people use in a year. If we know how much water they use in a year, we know how much budget we have to put away, because we wanna buy the water when it's dollars per acre feet, not hundreds of dollars. And if we did that, we could stick those wells, sell them to someone. It's just more wells and more wells, there are more problems and more problems.
okay.
That's all they are.
Okay, with those comments in mind from Russell, Bill, could you take us through just a summary of the operational report under item A, please? You mentioned how much water we used already. How's the plant functioning and the pipelines holding up?
The water treatment plant is making 1.3 to 1.5 million gallons a day, part of that's for Centerville. For November, we used 46.68 acre feet. In December so far, we've used 31 acre feet, just our district. The treatment plant, the big news up there is we're having some pneumatic actuator issues. We had one freeze solid, and which made the filter go offline. So we're down a filter right now, but with flow so low, it doesn't really make a difference.
Good.
So we're working around that, and we have a aging air compressor issue. Those are original from 1976. We've gotten our money's worth. Sorry, go ahead.
What was but you figured out a fix for that frozen actuator?
Yeah, next to buying an updated one, we took it apart and found a drawing, contacted the manufacturer, and they're obsolete, no parts are available. And we think we found a way to potentially rebuild it on our own. And if not, then it's time to update some controls to put together an improvement plan. Because we have a lot of them, like 40 of them.
Actuators?
Pneumatic actuators.
Okay.
There's more actuators.
Are they all the same?
No. No, we have a batch from 1976, an original, which are almost useless. And then there's 8 of them from 4 of them.
How much is the new one?
From 1984, and then there's 32 of them from 1996.
Well,
And a new one's about $2,000.
okay, so does that mean that we can take a new one and give it to the machinery that needs it?
Yeah, so if we pull the old one off, we have parts, but some parts aren't usable. Yeah,
So this has to be put in our budget as soon as possible to get some of those activators,
well,
even though the new ones, because we need those parts for the old ones are gonna break down. You gotta be on the ball, guys, you gotta have that money, and that's more important than most of all these things we talked about.
normally something like this would already be budgeted for, because O&M for the treatment plant is between $60,000 and $65,000 a year, is what we should be putting into the treatment plant. And that's actually a recommendation from Case Engineering from 2010, whatever. Nevertheless, we haven't been doing that, because there isn't that money, so it is budgeted for,
There's no money.
but there's no money, and we can budget all day long.
I'm
So-
trying to tell you,
Hey, Bill?
money's going somewhere else.
Are these part of, the grant loan that we're looking for?
No, currently this is not part of a grant that we have going on right now, grant loan that we have going on right now. This was figured into a grant loan possibility when, what was it? When we were looking at annexing Ono.
Yeah.
There was a talk of that was built into there, but the treatment plant, all the modernization needs to go in the treatment plant, is most likely gonna be its own project. And that'll be a joint project with our pals at Centerville, obviously.
Bill, I wanna ask you one thing, so as the guy that's gonna do all this stuff, would you tell the board you need one or two of those activities. And you would have one or two to use for parts for other spots. Please address the board. I mean, they don't recognize me
The board-
now, but I know how to do
The
it.
board's heard it from me so many times about, and a lot of them have come up and visited the treatment plant. And they've heard it before, they've seen, our needs, our wish lists. And,
I've just told you how to take the old ones and use it for the.
yeah, and ideally, we wouldn't even mess around with the new ones, not to talk about in-depth operations here, but we would just start updating and putting in new equipment.
Would it be useful, Bill, it was raised earlier that there's, members of the public that are ready to engage in helping write grants. Would this modernization project that you kind of envision, with Centerville, would that be a good opportunity to get some help from, interested members of the public to write grants that would fit that bill?
Yeah, this is gonna be more geared towards water quality. This is gonna be a pretty complicated project. I mean, I'll take the help, but we gotta have a plan with that. To go after the money.
Yeah, that's what I mean, and so it seems like that would be a good item, with some specifics for the finance committee well, this month's pretty shot in January. Do you think in January sometime, do you think by the middle of January you could address the finance committee with kind of pointing them in the right direction relative to grants and?
Yeah, sure. I think as far as the water treatment plant goes, as far as some of the upgrades it needs is things that normally we could just budget for, like media addition. That's something we've done in the past. We've added media to the filters on our own. Yes, thousands of dollars. Even these actuators with the electrical that's going to be involved, that's stuff we can do on our own. That doesn't need to be, oh, we're going to wait 2-3 years before we can get a grant. This is stuff that's breaking now. We're not going to be able to wait. If this was summertime, this wouldn't even be, I'd be telling you, hey, we just purchased a new actuator because we can't get a filter down in the summer. It'd be a different conversation if it was summertime.
Yeah.
So,
But looking ahead to the filter replacement and all that, it just seems like, until you start pedaling, up that hill, that 3-year hill for the grant,
yeah,
you're not on the hill going to the grant. So I'm just thinking, we've heard from the public that's showing an interest to engage in helping in that realm of grant writing. It would be good if we could harness that energy as soon as possible and get them turned in the right direction so they're effective.
absolutely.
And so some help just steer them to the right spots and what maybe the laundry list, to help them draft that grant would be swell. I'll bug you later about that in terms of an agenda item on the January finance committee. If that's where it belongs. I don't put it in any committee, it needs to get done. All right, so, anything else on operations, Bill, that you'd like to share with us before we turn to the standing committee report on standing committee reports?
I'm good.
Okay. Thanks for your hard work and at least share with them our appreciation as a board for them continuing to fight the good fight and keep this district functioning under some really adverse conditions. So share that with them. Well, public comment before we get going further.
I've been working in the office with Bill and everybody, and it's kind of amazing. Everybody, they have their plant supervisor, their titles, but everybody is helping Kristen, and everybody's really working together. It's not just that they're doing just a plant, everybody's really taking on extra work, and they, but I've also been calling people for their late billings, and a lot of people don't realize the extra billing that they're getting. They're going, why is it so much? And I go, well, you know, the 55 and the $1.21 and all that, so there's a lot of people that weren't paying attention, it seems to me, but a lot of people are paying their bills, you know, and, so we're getting that whittled down quite a bit, we're getting there, so. And they've been helping with getting the visas, that people are really, they just say, give me their visas, it's like, well, okay. But the other thing is that they, if you have different phone numbers on your account here, you know, you need to update them, because I've ran into more or disconnected numbers, especially people are dropping TDS and they're going to their cell phone, and I just can't get a hold of them. You know, so we're gonna send out a letter saying, please update your files with us. But that's really a problem because that's the sign of the times.
Yeah. I think that's the case. I know I've dropped my home phone, on just strictly this, more public comment, please, yes.
I just have a real simple question in regards to the billing stuff. I don't understand why a check I wrote in the first week of October didn't hit my bank until December 2nd. If y'all are sitting there worried about all the money not coming in and all the billing not getting done, but when it takes 2 months for a check that was dropped off in that little box, not mailed, to get processed through my bank, that's a problem. I also wrote a check a week ago Thursday to pay my bill completely off, and it still has not cleared my bank. That's almost a week. So, what's the deal?
That's happening to a lot of customers.
Yeah.
Thank God I know how to
But
reset the cycle.
They're literally swamped.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think that segues nicely into the report of the Finance Committee.
Yeah, no answer to my question.
Russell, did you have an operations comment?
I'm still waiting to see what are we collecting and what are we spending.
Yeah, that would be,
Page here.
Dave's gonna be able to help illuminate some of that.
Why don't we just address that now? The books for September have not closed, so I don't know what the numbers are.
For September.
It is
For
December.
September.
Yes. And the reason that, well, Dave, you can explain it, but I can paraphrase it, I think. The condition of the books, when we transitioned from Mr. Bourne and Mrs. Brown to the current employee makeup, was in such condition that Mr. Zalbandano has been working, I don't know, tens of hours, 40-hour week. He's doing a 40-hour week down here trying to untangle that. And so the efforts being made, and I would like to thank Dave again for his efforts. I mean, he's showing some real grit, sticking in there and helping us see some daylight. So with his hard work and then employing a new bookkeeper and getting good accounting advice from Dave, we're starting to see the daylight. We can see the surface, I think. Would that be fair? We can see the surface of the water. We're about to pop out. Maybe, at least from an accounting perspective.
No, we're 3 months behind. We're.
Understood, but I haven't been looking at the books, but hearing how Dave has been explaining it, it seems like, and the condition of the staff in terms of their ability to get all the work that's being done, along with all the transitions around the different billing setup and all the, arrearages and the new fee schedule. I mean, there's been a lot going on in the last couple of months. So I'm more than happy to cut them all the slack in the world, because I know they're doing their darndest to get us where we need to go. And all I can say is thank you. I appreciate sharing that with us, because then we can see that things still have a ways to go. But I applaud your efforts. And with that, I'd like Dave to kind of review our Finance Committee meeting. If you would, Dave, or would you like me to take a crack at some of the stuff that we covered, just as a recap?
Cedric,
How about if I take a crack? Just enough, just enough.
At the
You know
finance
how much,
committee
you
meeting?
know how much you billed last month? Do you have a figure for how much you billed? And you can't.
I don't have a number
And
for
how long
anything
will it
after
take,
August.
how long will it take to somebody tell you, this is how much we billed? You gotta have somebody putting out the bills. At the end of sending out the bills, they got told it, after they told it, well, we're owed this much money. We're owed this much money at the end of the month.
Understood.
Okay, it didn't come in yet.
The
It didn't come
financing,
yet, But when it does come in.
the
we'll
financing
be able to
A, B's,
pay
and
the
C's
bill.
we're well aware of, Russell, and that's what I tried to explain
All
we're
you're doing
working
is
on.
stirring the pot, Cedric. Answer the damn questions. You just had a
I
woman
just
there
did
tell you
answer
the
the
check
questions,
didn't
I
go
answered
for 2
exactly
months.
what you wanted to, what your related question was, which was, why don't we know how much we have or taking in, et cetera? And I summarized it by saying, what did I say? I said Mr. Bourne and Mrs. Brown left this district in such a condition as to have us a set of books that were so misaccounted for that it's by the grace of God that Mr. Zalbandano has come and become a director and has donated hundreds of hours of his own time to help us dig out of that. There's nothing more to be said. There is nothing more to be said.
Listen.
I think I've heard enough.
No, you
Russell.
haven't heard enough. You haven't heard enough. If at the end of the day, you don't have a total of what you spend, or at the end of the day, you don't have a total for what you're building, something's wrong. It has nothing to do with going in the back. It has to do with now. You have a new rate. You have 2,000 customers plus, paying $55 each. I'm pretty sure you can calculate that on your machine there and tell us, well, we just built that much there without any water.
Hey, Russell, Dave is not the bookkeeper.
That's true. But still, the board has to know these figures.
They're supposed to.
Okay,
Well, I mean,
we understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you can say $55 times 2,300 is, this is what we said, you know, but what does that mean?
Well, it means, it gives us a feeling of, look, we're doing our thing here, on my side here, we're paying all this extra money. We'd like to know that you built all these people this much money, and this is how much it is. When it comes in, it may take 30 days, but we're gonna be able to pay something else. That's all, it's very simple. At the end of the week, when you make out the payroll, you should know. Well, I've got to tell you that we spent this much on a payroll, overtime, or whatever, this is the payroll of so many people, and that's what it is.
So you think I should get a piece of paper and pencil and
No,
write this fucking
I
number
know
down?
that you're working hard, but it seems like
I
we're
mean,
really not,
the books are
really
not
not
closed, the
accomplishing too
books are
much.
not closed.
Why do you think when he goes to the banks or where he's going, he's not, somebody says, stepping forward and giving him the money?
That's probably because we lost like $1.2 million.
Of course it is.
All right,
Books will
so,
never balance,
Never.
Dave, would you recap, we had a meeting in November on, our finance meeting, and we focused on, it appears that we covered the supplemental water memo briefly, because we put together kind of a synopsis of that discussion, so we had something memorialized there. And then we went on to the WINAC loan update, and Bill reviewed some of the tough love that he's been receiving. I don't know if it was love, it's not very, regarding the challenges of, trying to get a loan. And then, we were hoping that the line item on the bill would give us better standing with financial institutions, you know, because we have a line item for the WIN Act on our bill. So that is a nice thing to be able to refer to when you're talking for financing. But the interest rates around that was 4 and 4.5%, as I recall from those discussions. We missed the opportunity to go with the pooled financing with lease law, which was at 3.5%. And the Ridgeline advisors, Bill alluded to earlier, they're still trolling for our business. They wanna do a big deal. They wanna do a big loan to us, not just the 600,000, but they wanna tack the unfunded liability on it too, and they've got a great big management fee that's stuck with that, and it's, in my view, not very attractive. I'd like to attack that in a different way, and hopefully by January we can see a different path that may not address the unfunded liabilities right away, but that's a beast in and of itself. But we can, hopefully we have some daylight on the WIN Act and securing our contract and having terms that we can work with through the Bureau. And then we went on to the financial review, which Dave spent quite a time discussing, and there was some good dialogue around that, and he focused a lot on the issues and corrections. So maybe just a quick recap on the issues and corrections
Okay, well,
that you've been working on.
all right, in a nutshell, and this has been ongoing because, I started working on the 2021, every time I work on something, I find something else, but, one of the problems is that, that there was a fixed asset system, I've kind of cobbled something together for that now. So, there wasn't fixed assets, they weren't calculating depreciation, weren't reconciling accounts, and, there's just, a lot of accounts that need to be reconciled. Let's see, there's, accounts that have balances that aren't being used, so, the paying accounts have to be reconciled. There's, just, some, basically what I would say is that over time, as they lost the more experienced accounting people and had less experienced people take over, they ran into more and more things they didn't know how to do, and it just sort of snowballed. So, you have things that should be a reduction in asset are called in, are going into revenue, and things that should be setting up a liability are going into revenue. So it's a lot of, I said, just things are going in the wrong places, and I gotta go through and sort them out and try to get it back to where it belongs.
And so, all that said, do you think you got your arms around September then? Is September?
I'm talking, the finance report was on the review of the 2021, not September. September is, I can't get my hands around it until it's, well, no. I mean, there's nothing to look at, it's not posted, it's not closed.
All the information for September is at the bookkeeper, and she's working on it.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that it'll be done tomorrow or Friday.
Okay.
But we're at her mercy, so we're not her only client.
Yeah, understood. Well, thanks for getting it to where we are currently, and the accounting right now in terms of the methodologies and procedures for reconciling the accounts. You feel like the folks, the staff understands now?
I don't believe that we have, I don't think we even have enough people in there, like the way you're doing, you've got a part-time bookkeeper that's working with somebody. I'm not sure that it is a whole lot better, we have to work on it, and we can pull some pieces out, but, if there's not the staffing available, then, you have to have the staffing to be able to do it, just like anything else.
Yeah. And, so what's Alicia? Alicia, right?
Elisa.
Elisa's is she a bookkeeper?
She is.
Okay. Is she knows her P's and Q's around a ledger?
Yes.
You confirm that?
Are we talking about our outside bookkeeper?
No, I'm talking about the new help that's in the office.
Yeah, she's not, no, she's
Okay.
office help.
Office help. Okay. All right, and so what I'm hearing from Dave,
Well, basically, let me back this up. I've been looking at what happened in the past, I haven't had time to look at what's going on right now to a big extent, I can look at, a loan payment and say, okay, look, this is coded wrong, we should just break it out, but as far as trying to, do the reconciliations or something like that on ongoing, we have an obligation on the 2021 stuff, we have to have the, state controller's audit. The state controller report has to go out by the end of January, and we got February, we're supposed to have the, financial auditors in, so, that's the priority. Not what's happening right now,
Okay.
although, like I said, when the books close, I review what's going on, and if anything is significantly wrong, then, I can change it.
So with respect to those two deadlines, September should be reconciled by the end of the week. And then we have October, November, December before the end of the next month. How do we get that done, Bill? Do you have a plan for that?
I have some more. We're gonna do the best we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no deadline on getting it done, not it,
So you see us blowing through the January deadline and asking for grace from the,
Well, the January deadline is for having the books through June of last year.
okay, so we're good for that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for
No.
that.
We
No.
don't, we really don't have anything to do the report, and Dave's hopefully gonna be able to help us, and I think what Dave's trying to say is this might be a staffing issue.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask is, do you need to contract more time with Alicia, the part-time bookkeeper, or do we need to shop for a whole new bookkeeper, or?
In-house, a temp agency.
You gotta pay for
Could be, do you have any ideas on that right now,
I
or
think that's a
is it
priority,
just,
in my mind.
Our financial situation, figuring it all out, is a priority. But the best way to do that,
Hire a full-time person.
it was done in-house. It's a full-time position. We have it under our MOU.
And you gotta get the right person too.
But-
We had a person here before, it didn't work.
Well, you go to a firm.
what do you mean it didn't work?
But, Christie, it didn't work.
Why, so it didn't work because the money wasn't right, or
It
she
didn't
wasn't
work because she
competent?
didn't have the right people, we didn't have the right people showing Christie. Christie's the right person,
Okay,
in my opinion. Christie's the right person. We sent her back, she learned to do a training with Fry, she learned the program, and, she was just shown our procedures that were wrong.
Yeah.
But she was doing what she was told.
Okay.
I know she brought things to management's attention, but, I've brought things to management attention for the last 5 years, and, well, the treatment plant's still falling apart.
yeah. So Kristen needs,
Kristen is not the bookkeeper.
yeah. So she's trained in
Christine was the bookkeeper.
yeah, understood.
Okay.
That didn't work for her
No.
because she didn't know what she was doing.
She wasn't trained for it.
With the temporary bookkeeper that they have, they'll show that, the first report was that July or August that she closed.
Yeah.
And it says, I did it the way it was done in the past. Just red flag that, I'm not even sure this is right, and I'm gonna do it the way you guys have been doing it.
Yeah.
It is possible that they know some firms that have services. Maybe we can get somebody for a couple of months, come in and they can do
Yeah, I don't know. I
it.
retired.
There's gotta be somebody that's ready,
Yeah.
bookkeeper.
Yeah, so,
Well, the good thing about it, the lady that we have working with us now, Lisa, she knows water companies, she works for Cellular, so she knows how water companies work, and that's the other thing too. They really should find somebody who knows all
But,
about it.
but getting everything compiled to give to her is tough.
That's the beast right now?
That and the drought and penalties and all the adjustments and, am I missing something?
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
yeah, on that one, so how many more months of challenges around that? Because we've been waiving the penalties. We've been waiving the penalties now, so when you get through is it the October? When we get through October, will it be the same? I mean, is there any light at the end of the tunnel for Kristen? Or is it just, there's no way we need, and I'm just trying to
No, I
find
mean,
what the
we're just,
solution is.
I mean, we're behind, I'm hearing comments like, why isn't it closed, sooner? It's not gonna happen sooner.
Yeah.
And it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So this is the way it can be,
Let's just go
or
forward.
we can address the situation and find the correct help and improve.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to, I think that if we have enough information to keep us functioning and we're making progress to improve the books and they're gonna reconcile in September, that's huge in the sense that, you've got a rep of one and it was 100% correct, yay. I mean, that's a big deal. And then it's working towards the next one. Is it logistically feasible to do the next one and then the next one? Is there a progress where you're getting ahead of the curve? Or is it just like, it was a big effort to get September done and now you're just gonna fall behind if you don't close the gap with something else? That's what and if we're gonna have a gap and it's gonna fall behind, we need to have that conversation and figure out how to close that gap.
Yeah, we're behind,
Yeah, are we,
still behind.
so are we closing the gap?
No.
Okay.
Treading water.
Well, I know, but there's a difference between, I'm asking Bill. You just,
We don't understand the question.
There might be a software problem that has been brought up before too. Could it be Bill?
It's not the
Not
software, it's just,
Software, they put new software in.
Oh, you did put no software.
it's,
Okay.
It's just getting
it's a
behind,
staffing
you get
issue.
caught up.
We're just,
so do we need
we're,
another Kristen
we're
or?
struggling. I mean, we're getting stuff done, but we're struggling.
Yeah, so I'm talking about closing the gap. I know you guys are behind and you're hearing comments that I hear them too, but I think that if we're making
the way we're
progress,
doing is acceptable.
we're going in the right direction.
If our timing and everything we're doing is acceptable, which in my opinion is not, then we should just keep doing what we're doing, and we should keep the timing comments to a minimum, and not say, oh, wow, we're 3 months behind, we don't need to hear that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm concerned about the making our audit date, for example, but it sounds like we're good.
this is last fiscal
Good
year.
through last, we're good, well, we're not good
We're
through
not.
last fiscal year, that's a mess. We'll see what the auditors turn up. They'll approve it again like the last auditor, when the thing's
Yeah,
upside down. But, if we're hitting those important pieces and we're creating an auditable set of books from, June, from our new rate system forward. So I guess that would be September, October-ish, July-ish. We're good, we'll be good from July, yeah, because July would be the new fiscal year.
Right.
Okay, so if we're good July forward, and we're gonna be able to close the gap, date uncertain, then I think we're doing okay.
Yeah.
Less the I don't know, mental and physical turmoil that's this whole effort's causing staff, but, if there needs to be something else changed, then if you please consider that for an item on our agenda. We lost our personnel committee member, so we can't have it at the standing committee. But it needs to be addressed, is what I'm saying. You'd have my support to get that addressed. If we're doing okay and we're gonna close the gaps, and we're not gonna do any, it's not gonna cause any secondary damage by the pace that you all are completing tasks at, then I'm okay with it. Does that make any sense? What do you think?
Well, I have a question for Bill. If you were able to hire a full-time qualified bookkeeper, could you close the gap?
Yeah, good job.
There it is.
That's what we did, that's
Can
what we
we
did
afford a
before.
full-time bookkeeper?
I remember when July first, or.
So we can't afford it.
When the first of the month came out, it was, we would get an email that said, I'm closing this month. And by July fifth, I'd have a profit and loss or an activity report. And, I mean, it was quick. That's their job. They just took care of it. On top of other tasks. But, yeah, I mean.
It's shambles, but if they got it done.
So yeah, if you want efficiency, then we should staff that position. That's my opinion.
Full time.
Can we do that through like OT, two staffing or one of those other programs where they take care of all how you went
We would
through
have had to work through an office that deals with.
a staffing office? And you don't have to take care of any of the payroll or anything for that person.
A temp agency takes care of all
They're,
their work comp, the insurance, payroll, everything.
I don't know how the union feel about bringing it in.
I know.
Yeah.
I agree.
yeah.
It's not right, it wouldn't be right that way, but.
Our union brings in contractor and temps all the time.
But we're not PG&E.
I know, but I'm just saying, all unions are not temporary personnel for a brief period of time.
All right, so that sounds like something, we don't have it comes to mind is two items for amongst there's a laundry list of stuff that the personnel committee was gonna take on. But the idea of having a discussion with the union about bringing in a temp to close the gap until such, and then turn them loose again, so that, you know what I mean, everybody's up.
The thing is, if you bring a temp in and train them up on the new software and all of that, by the time they know what they're doing, you're gonna get rid of them.
Yeah.
You know, unless you can find a temp that knows, the Bud software and the way they're using it here.
So Christie came in, we had to send her away for a week to get trained on the software.
Can Kristen be the bookkeeper?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we could talk to her, but.
So she's trained in the software. She's trained in the software. And then we brought on another person that can't be the bookkeeper. So we have two people on staff that can't be the bookkeeper.
We used to have 3 people in the office.
Understood. But we're working in a different kind of paradigm right now. We have 2 people. And it strikes me that one of them should be a bookkeeper and one of them should be something else.
Right.
And right now we have neither. Or we
Without-
have something else. but we don't have a bookkeeper.
Without pulling job duties, the bookkeeper was also, the water management person reporting to the bureau, dealing with Centerville, doing all the Centerville retro billing. There's a lot of things besides like bookkeeping specific to Clear Creek that they were in charge of. Still money, but not just necessarily our books. So, that's just off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about organizing. You got a certain, we're challenged fiscally, and we have people on staff, and I would love to be able to have the people on staff be able to accomplish all the tasks that are needed, that we need now, and not have to get additional staff. And because it strikes me, it's somewhere in there, it strikes me there's some redundancy somewhere, where there's just like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like,
You should really try to figure out the office for.
What happened? 14. Spend some time in the office, there's only 7 people now. It used to be 14.
yeah.
Well,
There was-
as time goes along and the new rates take effect, we will be filling holes, and we will be, at least that's the way I see it, and you will be in a position to be able to hire somebody full time.
Just the timing.
Yeah, just the time.
We gotta tread water.
Yeah, I guess so.
I like to hear the feedback.
So in the
Thank you for
interim,
that.
can we possibly have a few more volunteers to take some of the load off?
And I'm not sure how that's gonna work.
What would they do?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I've stood up here long enough, so I'm gonna sit down, because everybody else has got their hands up.
Beverly,
I wanna hear from you.
So my comment is, Dave, at the last the last finance standing committee, you said you thought it was only gonna take another week for you to understand about that $500,000 discrepancy. So I wanted to hear, that's what,
Okay, good.
you said it was only gonna take another week of you investigating to determine what was going on, because you had recommended in October an audit, a full audit, or whatever term you use for a bigger audit. And you backtracked at the November board meeting, or you stepped back from that recommendation, and then at the standing committee in November, you said, I asked you for a timeline on what you thought it was going to take for you to, delve into whatever the issues were, and you said 1 week. So I wanted to know where you were on that.
Okay, that is on the water receivables. Like I said, one of the problems is that the prior period adjustments were not booked, so that was 200,000. There was a double posting that happened, that was another 200,000. And there's some other stuff, that account is, within $30,000. It's not $500,000, it's 30,000.
Okay, and so do you have a report that you can give to the public so that we have that? Because we kind of need that to, you know, because you weren't gonna share that, you know? And those are things that we as the customer need to know. So hopefully that gets into the minutes then, that we know that you're saying that there isn't that discrepancy, now it's down to 30,000. So were they just in the wrong places, or?
Like I said, they did not book the prior period audit adjustments, which was 200,000. There was a double posting of an entry that was another 200,000. There's a crossover between 2 years because of, you know, that there are a bunch of things, but it is, like I said, that right now it's about, looks like it's about 30,000 off, and that's close enough for me.
Okay, it's not for us, but okay.
No, that's.
Well,
There's a half a year's worth of an employee.
Yeah, and just because what I'm hearing when you're addressing Dave, Beverly, I appreciate in the HBCC, Dave's here to try to help. He's not trying to hide anything or try to skewer the books. He's literally trying to untangle our
yeah, let me.
So if I came across that way, I apologize,
Okay.
but you have to realize what that effect was on all of us when you say you have a $500,000 discrepancy and you say audit, and then you come back the next month and say, oh, no, give me another week or whatever, and I'll investigate it, and then we don't hear anything. We just need more transparency and communication with that, because 500,000 or 30,000, 30,000 is still a significant amount. Yes, it's completely much lower than 500,000, but it just goes to the things of everything being screwed up. And that is from what year? What year is that 30,000 from? From June forward or June backwards?
That would be the 2021 fiscal year.
Going back.
Okay, the 2021.
Yes.
Okay. And so that's where we're gonna have our auditors come in February and come up against that.
Okay, let me explain something. I'm basically acting, at this point in time, I'm acting as a volunteer. I'm trying to pull information together to be able to get it in a semblance where the auditors can even look at it. Because, you know, I don't wanna pay, like I said, anything I can do is gonna save money on the audit. And that's all I do. So, you know, I can get it to where it's at least close enough that the auditor will look at it, they won't walk out the door.
So that's what you meant by that comment. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Yep, thank you.
Mr.
Two
McVeigh?
simple questions to change course a little bit. All the bills paid was a Les Schwab for about 2,500. Just curious, vehicle maintenance, what was that for?
Dump truck tires? Dump truck tires?
2,500, wow, okay. And, we have, what, a dozen chemical tanks stored back there that are empty
Yep.
as surplus. Is that something the board will authorize to be given out to the public or sold if there has to be a deposit or something? It's been done in the past, empty ones. Right back there, they're aluminum frame poly tanks, 275 gallon, I believe.
Yeah.
They're just empty.
Yeah, there's just a stack of empty,
Do they have a return value? What's like a pallet? Pallets would be-
it's not worth them picking it up, that's right, we looked into it. So,
Is there a hazard, is there a liability? I mean, is it restricted materials? Have they been triple rinsed, et cetera?
yeah, we're not cleaning them, no. I don't know where you're going with that, but we're not cleaning them.
Well,
Yeah, it's
I know.
water treatment chemicals, if
So
someone,
you-
if
so-
someone.
The district gives restricted material to Joe Public for $5. If we receive money for them, we own the liability.
That's
I just don't know why, I don't know what's in it for the district to.
Surplus it and get some money, but.
Well, or simply get rid of something you're storing that has no value.
Well, it does have value.
Oh, well, you can't turn it back in and refill them and use them
You
again.
know, people come in all the time and say, well, I give us $75 for them.
Oh, okay, well, there again.
Take it.
You take on liability.
You haul it away.
But I can't just, without getting board permission,
Exactly, that's why.
without it being on the agenda,
Yeah, let's-
without surplusing, doing
Do we
it.
have-
Put it on the
Do we have
agenda.
time and energy for this? I mean, is that an important? I don't even think
Well, it's an
it
opportunity for people in the community to pick up on it if they so desire.
From what I've heard from the public ready to bite back at this board, at the drop of a hat, I would prefer to avoid anything that puts the board in any kind of a, 1 second we're walking down the same path and we're together solving the same problem, the next, we're not. And so, I'm a little more reluctant to just wing it on those regards, because we have too much ground to cover, in my opinion. Other discussion before we close this particular item? Anyone else? Do you have any opinion on that, Mr. Fuss?
Oh, no.
No? Okay, Joanna? On the
I recycle everything.
recycling?
I'm a recycler.
Okay,
And I tell you what, when I bring my bottles in and my cans in, I don't make a lot of money, but I take it home and I put it into a special account,
okay,
okay?
all right.
And that's extra money I know I've got available if an emergency comes up,
Okay,
okay? I'm a recycler.
okay, Joanne?
I'd like to go back to the issue of the bookkeeper. There's an old saying about penny wise, pound foolish. I think at this point, if we don't get a qualified bookkeeper in here to start getting things back to where they need to be, we're gonna lose more money than we would gain. And we're so far in the hole anyway. What the heck? You know, we already owe millions of dollars, so why not hire somebody who can fix what the problem we have?
We have a qualified bookkeeper, don't we?
No.
They're gone.
No, part-time. They need a full-time person in their office, they don't, having somebody work, that has another job and works on it on weekends and nights isn't gonna work.
Right, we need a qualified bookkeeper, full-time,
Not to fix it.
here in the office.
If we keep doing what we're doing now, we'll get by, but we're not gonna get caught up, we're not gonna get some of these other things taken care of. The thing that's what Dave was trying to say.
Yeah.
We're not taking anything off of Kristen's plate.
Yeah.
She's got to struggle to get her job done.
Yeah.
And then get all the financial stuff together to
Yeah.
give to Elisa, so Elisa can give
Yeah.
back a closed month.
And since we're not gonna have a personnel committee meeting until we get another member, the director, to sit there, because I think we're all pretty well tapped out. what I'd like to see, Bill, if you have a chance, so we can just solve it collectively, we'll just have a board meeting, it would feel more like a workshop, which may not be as perfect as one might desire, but we could at least hash things out. Would you put together kind of an outline of the current employees, the jobs that they're covering, holes in those tasks, so we can see the whole picture? So,
Of the entire staff, or just? the
yeah,
financial?
so we can see how these things fit together. I mean, is that, you know what I mean? In brief, you don't have to write a book about it, but just so we can understand how those pieces fit together in terms of what their jobs are, like in the office.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, I mean, I don't know if anyone else, I see Chad in the office occasionally doing things, multitasking.
Chad's very versatile. Yep.
I'll tell you what,
Wait,
Yeah, just a minute, Russ, we're having a
he doesn't
conversation.
have enough work? What's the matter with you?
we were talking about Chad.
So anyways, that would help, because I don't wanna necessarily, I mean, it's clear now, it's
Okay, thank you, Russell. Thank you, buddy.
a spot for you, a spot for you.
You guys,
So to make the decision more clearly, is so that we can explain it to the public, if we go down the road of having a full-time bookkeeper, I just like to have enough information that I can explain it to someone, because right now, I don't have that information. I don't know if others could answer that question from the public, if they said, hey, why the hell did you go hire a bookkeeper? I'd be going, because we're already in the hole, and what are you doing spending more personnel, and you just hired a temp or a part-time or another person in the office, and the hole's still not plugged in, et cetera. So I'd just like some help.
there's accounting services. If you wanna get a couple months done, you just go to the service and you let them do those 3 months. Then they're caught up. Then we have enough people. But we don't have enough people
Let
right
me
now.
rewind it just a little bit for you, because we went over this about 15 minutes ago. It was raised at the podium by Joanne, I think, no, it was the other gal that sits behind there. She said, let's get a temp to plug the hole, get us caught up. Not sure remember that? Not sure how the union would take that. Okay, we had that conversation, and then I asked, just to rehash it, then I asked Bill about it, and Dave said, you know, that's not gonna work, because by the time you train them up, you're gonna need someone else to do the job full-time anyways. And that's where we left it. And so now we're discussing, I made a request to Mr. Paul Mesa to give us that's in there, yeah, that's right, baby. Yeah, to give us the information so that we can make a decision about adding a full-time, and be able to answer the questions to the public, adding a full-time employee in a moment of financial difficulty, right? Because if I was a customer, I would ask the question, why are you adding another employee when you just added another employee? And this is continuing to be a struggle for the district.
You don't understand, Mike, you don't understand.
I've heard, Russell.
You don't understand. An accountant service is not another employee. It's somebody that comes in and does this month and that month and what you want, and they're gone. Maybe they take the stuff with them. But
All right.
We can't be getting anywhere.
The bookkeeper closes the books, they also have to, write the report.
Safe.
You have to write the state controller report, you have to write, billings to, Centerville, you have to do a lot of stuff, you know.
That's
If you
true,
just
that's
close
why
the
they're
book,
overworked.
you still got a big hole in it, you know. You use a tip agency just to physically get the books closed.
We're not gonna solve this
Yeah,
tonight,
no,
guys.
We're not.
I think
I
we
love to
should.
sit in that chair.
We're not getting anywhere.
Yes, I think that we have another one, come on up and give us a couple of your words of wisdom.
I'm not gonna be a jackass about it, sorry. So working for the state, we have permanent intermittent employees, PIs. They work maximum of 1,500 hours a year. That can be, for the year, it changes week by week, month by month, depending on how much you need them. So for a bookkeeper position, theoretically, you could go for a PI position. It goes under the PERS agreements, I don't know if it goes under the MAU and the Clear Creek situation. But that's an option, so then you're not paying a full-time employee, per se. They are a permanent employee, they're paying into their insurance, they're paying into their own benefits and so forth. But you just work them at an as-needed basis, up to 1,500 hours a year. They have to do so many hours the first 6 months of the year, so many hours the last 6 months of the year, so that way they keep their benefits under the PERS agreements. That way you're not shelling out as much as you would for a full-time 40-hour-a-week person, but maybe a 30-hour-a-week person.
Yes, and so along that
Good
line,
suggestion.
I'm hoping
Something
that,
that Bill can look at.
I'm hoping that whoever applies for the director's position knows that they're gonna be asked to be on the personnel committee. If they're ready to take on some of the issues with, that were mentioned in previous, that was going to be part of that, that standing committee's work on the MOU and overtime and ideas around this idea of a permanent intermittent person and those sorts of things. So really look forward to having someone with a lot of energy come forward and take on what I consider one of the more challenging roles on the board. And Joanna's Ms. Trennery is already sitting there ready to take those on, and we appreciate her for that. And with that, yes, no, you are here and you're ready to go on that. So
Okay,
Before you
one question,
close,
one question. Anything with buying water yet? Have we done anything?
That's a good question.
that's a,
We've
You
contacted,
get a picture.
we've contacted McConnell. They're gonna send out a feeler, in about a month,
What's your 2 cents
to
in?
see where we're at. And I talked to the city of Reading about being on a list to purchase water, but right now it's just all talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it.
I just want to make one comment.
the last word is Ms. Director Trennery.
Thank you. I want to wish everyone a very blessed and holy Christmas. Think
Thank
positive.
you. Thank you. With that, we close this meeting.
So you can ignore my email, and I say to them, so they know. Yeah.
So the question was, could you make